What happens when royalty meets reality television and refuses to play by the rules? In just 37 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into the most shocking moment in daytime television history. The studio lights were blazing hot that morning. The audience was packed in tight, buzzing with excitement. Prince Harry had agreed to sit down with The View for what everyone thought would be a friendly chat about his latest charity work. Joy Behar was ready with her notes, smiling at the cameras as they counted down to the start of the segment. The applause was deafening as Harry walked onto the stage. He gave a small wave, buttoned his jacket, and sat down in the guest chair. Joy leaned forward with her warmest smile. "Welcome, welcome. We are so thrilled to have you here," Joy said, her voice bright and cheerful. Harry nodded, but did not return the smile. He adjusted his position in the chair, looking slightly uncomfortable under the lights. "So let's jump right in," Joy continued. "You've been doing incredible work with your foundation, helping veterans transition back to civilian life. Can you tell us what inspired this particular project?" Harry cleared his throat. "Well, I think it's fairly obvious, isn't it? These are people who served their country and deserve better than what they're getting." The audience clapped politely. Joy's smile stayed in place, though something shifted in her eyes. "Absolutely. We couldn't agree more," Joy said. "And you've spoken before about your own military service. How does that experience shape the way you approach this work?" "I don't think you can really understand unless you've been there," Harry said, his tone cooling. "It's not something you can just ask about in a 10-minute interview and expect to grasp." A few awkward laughs rippled through the audience. Joy's co-hosts exchanged quick glances. "Of course," Joy said smoothly, keeping her professional composure. "We're just hoping you can share what you're comfortable with, help our audience understand why this cause matters so much." Harry shifted again. "That's the problem, though, isn't it? Everyone wants the soundbite, the nice, neat little story they can share at dinner parties. Nobody wants to do the actual work." The studio went quiet. Joy sat up straighter. "I think that's a bit unfair," Joy said, her voice still even but firmer now. "Our audience cares deeply about these issues. That's why we're having this conversation. Are they here because they care, or because I'm sitting in this chair?" Harry shot back. The tension was thick enough to cut. Joy took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "I think you'd be surprised. Many of our viewers are veterans themselves, or family members of service people. They tune in because these conversations matter to them." Harry laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Right. And I'm sure they're learning so much from watching daytime television hosts ask surface-level questions." Gasps echoed through the audience. Joy's co-hosts looked stunned. This was not going the way anyone had planned. Joy set down her note cards. "Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I understand you're passionate about this work, and that's admirable. But you just insulted me, my co-hosts, and our entire audience." "I'm just being honest," Harry said, leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed. "Isn't that what everyone claims they want? Honesty? Authenticity?" "There's a difference between honesty and rudeness," Joy replied. "We invited you here with respect. The least you can do is show the same courtesy." "Courtesy," Harry repeated, shaking his head. "You want me to sit here and smile and pretend like these shallow questions are meaningful? Is that the courtesy you're after?" The audience was completely silent now. Some people had their hands over their mouths. Others were leaning forward in their seats, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Joy's expression hardened. "These questions are meant to help people understand your work, to inspire them to get involved, to donate, to care. If you think that's shallow, then I'm not sure why you agreed to come here in the first place." "Maybe I shouldn't have," Harry muttered. "Excuse me?" Joy said, her voice sharp. Harry looked directly at her. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I thought there would be actual substance to this conversation, not just the usual talk show fluff. One of Joy's co-hosts tried to interject. "I think we should take a breath here and No, Joy said, holding up her hand. Let him finish. Clearly, he has more to say. Harry stood up from his chair. I've said what I need to say. This is exactly what's wrong with media today. All performance, no depth. You bring people on. You ask your pre-written questions. You get your applause. And nothing actually changes. Joy stood up too, facing him directly. That is incredibly disrespectful. Not just to me, but to every person in this room. We work hard to have meaningful conversations about important issues. Just because you're unhappy with the format doesn't give you the right to dismiss everyone here. I'm not dismissing anyone, Harry said. I'm just telling the truth that nobody else seems willing to say. No, Joy said, her voice rising now. You're being condescending and rude. And frankly, I don't care what title you have or where you come from. That behavior is unacceptable. Harry's face flushed red. Are you seriously speaking to me this way? Yes, I am, Joy said without hesitation. Because someone needs to. You came on our show. You agreed to this interview. And now you're acting like we're beneath you. Like our audience doesn't deserve your time or effort. That's not what I said, Harry protested. It's exactly what you said, Joy countered. And it's certainly what you've been implying from the moment you sat down. The audience started murmuring. Some people were nodding in agreement with Joy. Others looked shocked at how confrontational things had become. Harry pointed at Joy. You know what your problem is? You can't handle anyone who doesn't play your game, who doesn't give you the warm, fuzzy interview you can package up and sell. My problem? Joy's eyes widened. My problem is that I have a guest who thinks he's too important to treat people with basic respect. I've done more for charity in 1 year than you've done in your entire career, Harry snapped. The entire studio gasped. Joy's co-hosts stood up. Security guards near the stage perked up, ready to move if needed. Joy's voice went ice cold. Get off my stage. What? Harry said, seeming genuinely surprised. You heard me, Joy said. Get off my stage. This interview is over. You can't be serious, Harry said, looking around as if expecting someone to intervene. I am completely serious, Joy said. You came here and insulted me. Insulted my colleagues. Insulted our audience. And now you're bragging about your charity work like it gives you a free pass to treat people however you want. I don't care who you are. You're done here. Harry's mouth opened and closed. This is absurd. What's absurd is your behavior, Joy said. I've interviewed presidents, activists, celebrities, people from all walks of life, and not one of them has ever been as disrespectful as you're being right now. I'm being honest, Harry said again, his voice rising. Something you clearly can't handle. Honest, Joy laughed, but it was sharp and humorless. You're not being honest. You're being arrogant. There's a difference. Harry took a step closer. How dare you? How dare I? Joy stood her ground. How dare you come into our studio and act like you're doing us a favor by being here? We gave you a platform to talk about something you supposedly care about, and instead, you've spent the entire time looking down your nose at everyone. I don't have to listen to this, Harry said. You're right, you don't, Joy said, which is why I'm asking you to leave. Right now. The security guards started moving toward the stage. Harry noticed them, and his expression changed from anger to disbelief. Are you actually having me removed? He asked. Yes, Joy said simply. Because you've crossed a line. Multiple lines, actually. Harry looked at the audience as if appealing to them. Can you believe this? But the audience was silent. Some people were actually nodding in support of Joy. Others looked uncomfortable, but weren't coming to Harry's defense. Nobody's on your side here, Joy said, because you're in the wrong, and deep down, I think you know it. This is unbelievable, Harry said, shaking his head. Absolutely unbelievable. What's unbelievable is that you still don't get it, Joy said. You had an opportunity to share something meaningful, to actually make a difference, and you wasted it because you couldn't get over yourself long enough to have a civil conversation. Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You have no idea what I've been through, what I've sacrificed. Maybe not, Joy said, but I know what respect looks like, and this isn't it. The security guards were on the stage now, standing a few feet away from Harry. Sir, we need you to come with us, one of them said quietly. Harry looked at the guard, then back at Joy. This is how you treat your guests? This is how I treat people who disrespect my show and my audience, Joy replied. I gave you multiple chances to course correct. You chose not to take them. I was just being real, Harry said, his voice dropping lower. No, Joy said. You were being rude. And there's a difference. A big one. Harry stood there for a long moment, as if deciding whether to argue further. The entire studio held its breath. Finally, he turned to the security guards. Fine, I'll leave. Thank you, one of them said, gesturing toward the exit. As Harry started walking off the stage, Joy called after him. For what it's worth, I hope you figure it out. I hope you realize that being important doesn't give you permission to be unkind. Harry stopped and turned back. And I hope you realize that asking tough questions doesn't make you a bad interviewer, but refusing to acknowledge valid criticism does. That wasn't criticism, Joy said. That was contempt, and I don't accept contempt from anyone. Harry opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, but then closed it. He turned and walked off the stage, flanked by security guards. The audience watched in complete silence as he disappeared through the exit. Joy stood there for a moment, collecting herself. Then she turned to face the cameras and the audience. Well, she said, her voice still shaking slightly with emotion, that certainly didn't go as planned. A few nervous laughs scattered through the crowd. Joy's co-hosts came over to stand beside her, showing their support. I want to say something, Joy continued, looking directly into the camera. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I have never, ever asked a guest to leave before. But I also have never been treated with such blatant disrespect on my own show. The audience started clapping. It began with just a few people, then spread until the entire studio was applauding. Joy held up her hands. I'm not looking for applause. I just want to be clear about something. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you've accomplished. Basic human decency is non-negotiable. Respect is non-negotiable. The applause grew louder. Joy wiped at her eyes quickly. Our show has always been about having real conversations, she said. Sometimes those conversations get heated. Sometimes we disagree. But we do it with respect. We do it with the understanding that the person across from us is a human being worthy of dignity. One of her co-hosts put a hand on Joy's shoulder. Joy took a deep breath. What you just witnessed was someone who forgot that, Joy said, or maybe never learned it in the first place. Either way, I'm not going to let anyone treat our audience, our staff, or me that way. I don't care what title they have. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Joy looked genuinely moved by the response. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being here. And thank you for always bringing thoughtfulness and respect to these conversations, even when our guests don't. She paused, gathering herself once more. We're going to take a quick break, Joy said. When we come back, we'll continue with our scheduled programming. Because the show goes on. It always does. The cameras cut away. The audience was still buzzing with energy, talking amongst themselves about what they had just seen. Joy's co-hosts surrounded her, offering support and making sure she was okay. I can't believe that just happened, one of them said. I can't either, Joy replied, but I'm not going to apologize for standing up for us. You shouldn't, another co-host said firmly. You did exactly the right thing. Backstage, producers were scrambling, This was unprecedented. They were already getting calls from news outlets wanting statements. Social media was exploding with reactions. Everyone had an opinion about what had just transpired. But on stage, Joy was focused on something else entirely. She was thinking about her audience, about the people who tuned in every day expecting thoughtful conversation and mutual respect. "Are you okay to continue?" a producer asked through her earpiece. Joy nodded. "I'm fine. Let's keep going." The stage manager started counting down to when they would be back on air. Joy straightened her jacket, fixed her hair, and took her seat again. Her co-hosts did the same. When the cameras came back on, Joy's composure was completely restored. She looked professional, poised, and ready to move forward. "Welcome back," she said to the camera. "Now, let's talk about something that actually matters." And just like that, the show continued. Because that's what professionals do. They handle difficult situations with grace. They stand up for what's right, and then they keep going. The audience watched Joy navigate the rest of the show with the same energy and enthusiasm she always brought. If she was still rattled by what had happened, she didn't show it. She was there to do her job, and she was going to do it well. In the guest chair where Harry had been sitting just minutes before, there was now someone else. Someone who answered questions thoughtfully. Someone who treated the hosts and audience with respect. Someone who understood that being on television was a privilege, not a right. The contrast could not have been more stark. As the show wound down, Joy addressed the audience one final time. "I know today's show took an unexpected turn," she said, "but I hope it reinforced something important. We all deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, no matter where we are or who we're talking to. That's not just a nice idea. It's a requirement for civil society." The audience clapped in agreement. "Thank you for being such a wonderful audience," Joy said. "Thank you for your understanding and your support. We'll see you tomorrow." The credits rolled. The audience filed out, still talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. It would be a show they would never forget. Joy sat in her chair for a moment after the cameras stopped rolling. She let out a long breath. "That was intense," one of her co-hosts said. "Yeah," Joy agreed. "It really was." "But you handled it perfectly," another co-host said. "Seriously, you were incredible." Joy smiled, a real smile this time. "Thanks. I just did what felt right." And that was the truth. In that moment, when everything was falling apart, Joy had relied on her instincts and her values. She had stood up for herself and for everyone in that studio. She had drawn a line and held it firm. It wasn't about being confrontational. It wasn't about creating drama. It was about maintaining standards and refusing to accept behavior that fell short of those standards. As Joy gathered her things and prepared to leave the studio, she felt oddly at peace. Yes, it had been chaotic. Yes, it had been uncomfortable. But she had done the right thing. And sometimes, doing the right thing is all that matters. The story of what happened that day would spread far and wide. People would debate it, analyze it, share their opinions about who was right and who was wrong. But for Joy, it was simple. She had been disrespected in her own house, and she had responded with strength and dignity. She had shown that kindness doesn't mean being a pushover. That respect is a two-way street. That everyone, regardless of their status, needs to be held to the same basic standards of human decency. The prince had learned a valuable lesson that day, whether he realized it or not. And the audience had witnessed something rare and powerful. Someone standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it's awkward, even when it would be easier to just let things slide. That's what true strength looks like. Not in titles or positions or accomplishments, but in the courage to maintain your values when they're being tested. Joy walked out of the studio that day with her head held high. She had nothing to apologize for. She had nothing to regret. She had simply done what needed to be done. And in a world that often rewards bad behavior with attention and platforms, that was a revolutionary act. The show would go on. Tomorrow would bring new guests, new conversations, new opportunities. But what happened today would be remembered. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was a reminder that respect matters, that dignity matters, that how we treat each other matters. Joy had sent a message that day, a clear, unambiguous message that would echo far beyond that studio. You can be important, you can be accomplished, you can be famous, but you still have to be kind. And if you're not, there will be consequences, even for a prince.